Hey friends, welcome back to the Special Kind of Motherhood podcast. I hope you guys are having a wonderful week. Today I want to share with you a little bit of a personal story about some of my gardening struggles. I just want to share these with you, hopefully as a way to encourage you that if things are not going as you had hoped, if maybe you had set out to have these big garden plans and they just haven't happened that way, I want to let you know you're not alone in that and offer you some encouragement for how you can keep moving forward even whenever things are not going as you had planned. So let's go ahead and get started.
Hi friend, do you dream of having a garden but you don't know where to start? Do you want to switch to more natural products but feel overwhelmed by all the options? Do you believe that a holistic lifestyle would help your special needs kiddo but you're daunted by all the information out there? Welcome to the Special Kind of Motherhood podcast, where you will learn how to work towards your dream for homesteading, gardening, and holistic living in small, simple steps that won't overwhelm you. Hi, I'm Ashley. I'm a wife, Jesus follower, and mom to some amazing kids. As some of my kids began experiencing health struggles and developmental delays, I decided it was time to switch to a holistic lifestyle. I quickly became stressed out and burnt out, feeling like I needed to change everything at once. I finally realized that I had to start making one small change at a time, then build from there. I learned to walk this holistic journey in a way that works for me and my family, without stress or overwhelm or constantly feeling like I wasn't doing enough. If you're ready to hear from another mama who understands what it's like to have no time and who can help you make changes towards better health for your family in a way that works for your specific life, then this is the podcast for you. Pop in your earbuds, reheat your coffee for the third time, and let's do this.
Hey mama, if you are looking for a like-minded community where you can hang out, where you can ask all kinds of questions, where you can just get some encouragement and be around people who are trying to live maybe more of a holistic lifestyle, or they're trying to start their own garden and they're not really sure where to start, then head over to our free Facebook community and join us there. We would love to be able to encourage you and walk alongside you as you head on this journey of trying to improve the health of yourself and your family. So head over to bit.ly/motherhood community, or you can find the link in the show notes below. I hope to see you there. All right, so this is a little bit of a different podcast than what I normally do, but I just felt like sharing a little bit of what's been going on, hopefully as a way to encourage you and let you know you are not alone. So I want to start out with saying what my garden plans were for this year. And they really were that I was planning to expand our garden, have a larger area to grow in. I was also planning to start a ton of my plants from seed. I have a lot of seeds. I bought a bunch last year, like I mentioned last week on my ways to save money. On that episode, I had bought a bunch of seeds on sale and was planning to start all of them this year, come January, February, March, depending on what I was growing, and was going to plant all of those new varieties out. I was very excited about trying some different things. And really, I also wanted to heavily focus on buying berry plants because I have kids who really love berries. Berries are expensive, and I just love the fact that they are perennials. So I plant them once and they're going to keep coming back. So those were my goals. And I can say that the reality of that was that we have been so busy. We've had a lot going on. My husband's been busy with his job and expecting to be even busier in the upcoming months. And I had to step back and say, realistically, me expanding the garden and having a ton of time to invest in it is probably not going to be good for this stage right now. And that was really hard because I had these plans, I had these goals. And then what was even harder was the fact that I had all of the stuff to start my plants from seed ready to go. And we were just so busy that I just kept forgetting to do it. And I just didn't designate the time. I would put it off. I would keep thinking, okay, I'll do it here. And then we would get busy with something else and I wouldn't get it done. And eventually it got to the point where it was too late for me to even try. And that felt very frustrating for myself because there was really no reason other than the fact that we were busy, but there wasn't really a reason for me to say, okay, this shouldn't or couldn't be done. It could have been done, I think, if I had been a little bit more intentional with my planning, but I just let time get away from me. And, sometimes we do that. Sometimes we have the best of intentions or we have these really big goals. If you're like me, I always have some kind of goal or plan, or if you ask my husband, 5 different projects that I'm working on at the same time. That's just my personality. And it can feel very frustrating for myself, almost as if I've let myself down whenever I have these big plans and then they don't end up happening for whatever reason. And I will say we did expand some of our gardening space. We did also get grow bags. We got some more of the stacking planters. And I did also focus heavily on getting berry plants this year. So I did accomplish some of those goals. But the issue now is because I did not start all of those plants from seed, I didn't have as much to plant in my garden. So I had all of this extra garden space, and two of my two in-ground beds, they're halfway, one of them is halfway empty and the other one is almost completely empty. I have like a row of potatoes and I have some melons on one side, honeydew melon that I'm planning to grow. But other than that, I don't have anything else planted. Now, I do plan to plant like some dragon tongue bush beans there, but I had these big dreams. I had these big goals, and it just hasn't happened. You know, I did quite a bit of work trying to expand the garden space. We did spend some money getting like the stacking planters, getting the soil for them, getting the grow bags, and I did plant out most of the grow bags. But like I said, it can feel very disappointing. I personally have struggled with feeling guilt because I'm like, oh, we've invested this time or this money, or I had this plan and I didn't follow through with it. And I have all of this garden space that we have utilized in our backyard, and it feels like it's being wasted because the issue for me was I wanted to plant all of these cool, fun varieties. And then when I go to the local, like a local nursery or anything like that, they typically have just your basic stuff. And I have bought all of that stuff, but it's like I've bought what I need of that stuff and I don't need any more. And I still have space. And I know that the reason I still have space is because I did not take the time to be intentional with starting those seeds. And so that feels very frustrating to me. And I'm just like, oh, I feel a little bit like a failure. Like, oh, I'm talking about gardening and I love it so much. And yet somehow I still did not make this happen. I let this slip past me without realizing it. And, you know, those feelings of like, oh, I could have done this or I should have done this, it can be really hard to deal with. And this can be not just in gardening. This can be in any area of life. It can be anything that you had a goal or a plan, or maybe you were going to declutter your house. And that's another thing I've been working on. Maybe you were going to declutter your entire house, or you were going to spend 15 minutes a day decluttering your house. And you look back over the last month and realize you didn't do it a single time. It doesn't have to just do with gardening. It can be anything that if you're like me and you really do like setting those goals and constantly working on projects and improving things in your house and just your life, then I feel like sometimes we can hold ourselves to a little bit of unrealistic expectations, or at least that has been my personal struggle, where I will push myself because I do love trying these new things and accomplishing these tasks, and I push myself to the point of burning out. And the thing for me is that I have had a really bad habit of that over the years. So for the last several years, I've really been trying not to do that. And what ends up happening sometimes, because I say, okay, I actually can tell just how my body's feeling that I really need to take some time to rest, or we have this priority, so I'm going to have to let this thing go, is that I do end up feeling guilty or like a little bit dissatisfied with the way I'm handling things, or with wishing I was doing more. And that can sometimes lead to feelings of regret or even resentment about your busy schedule, about the things that are taking up your time. And that's something I've had to kind of work through over the years. And then especially currently, what I've had to realize is we have been very, very busy. It feels like we're going nonstop. And so for me to set these expectations of, hey, I'm going to have this giant garden and I'm going to start all of my plants from seed, and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that and I'm going to take care of this. It really isn't that realistic. And so I have to learn to give myself grace and say, you know what? I was doing the best I could with the time I had. Do I want to change something moving forward and be more intentional? Absolutely. Am I going to set reminders on my calendar whenever I need to plant stuff? Absolutely. So I do have a plan moving forward, but at the same time, I have to realize I need to offer myself grace in this situation, and I need to look at the big picture. While yes, I did drop the ball on some of the things as far as gardening, I also was really invested in other areas. I actually did declutter my entire house. I spent a Saturday going through my entire house, decluttering every single room. And my kids have been able to do some extracurricular activities, and we've had a lot of family time, and we've been able to get out of the house and go do some stuff. And so while I did drop the ball in those areas, I really did really, really well in other areas. And so understanding that it is about finding that balance, or realizing that we can't meet those high expectations in all areas at the same time. And I know for me that's such a struggle, because I expect myself to be able to do all of the things. And that is why, over the years, I did end up just having a lot of health issues, is because I was pushing myself so much. And that is also why I've really had to learn to work through and expect less of myself, which sounds weird, but when you are expecting too much of yourself, then expecting less of yourself is actually really getting to the point of expecting something that's realistic, instead of constantly pushing yourself because you are always wanting to achieve, or you're always wanting to do the next fun thing, or whatever it is. But just, having a lot of grace for myself has really been helpful. And then looking at that big picture and saying, okay, I did drop the ball, but I did really well in these other areas. And I'm really happy about that. I don't have regrets about doing those things. And so if it means that the garden is a little bit smaller this year and we don't get to try the new varieties, it's okay. I'm okay with it. Like, we will try stuff next year. Next year we'll see how it goes, but life hopefully will be a little less chaotic, and I'll have some more time to invest in it. And if so, that'll be great. And if not, then we'll just keep doing little by little. And that's what I've had to do, especially with our family dynamics. I don't have a large amount of time to dedicate to gardening. And so this year it's been going outside, because our garden is in our backyard, while my kids are playing, and just spending 30 minutes a day, just planting stuff here, weeding stuff there, adding stuff here and there, and just plugging away little by little. And I want to encourage you, if you are feeling like you've kind of dropped the ball, if you're feeling like there's too much to do, if you're thinking, oh my goodness, I really wanted to get started and this feels very overwhelming, one, set really realistic expectations for yourself. If you are expecting too much of yourself, you may not be able to do it all. And then also realize that you can just make progress in these little steps. Like I said, 30 minutes a day for me. And I was so overwhelmed by the list of things I needed to get done in that garden. And what I realized was that me just plugging away at it a little bit at a time has honestly it has made it seem less like a chore. It has made it seem a lot more enjoyable. And two, it's actually worked through that list really, really quickly. So maybe your thing isn't gardening. Maybe it is decluttering your house. Maybe it is trying to figure out a way to switch out to healthier foods for your family. Whatever the thing is, just giving yourself grace, but then also saying, what is something I could do? Can I take 15 minutes a day? Can I take 30 minutes a day? And how can I set this up where I'm actually going to do it? So it's very important to me to take my kids outside. I prefer for my kids to spend at least 2 hours a day outside, weather permitting, of course. And so the likelihood that I am going to take them outside is very, very high, because it's a high value for me. So pairing the garden chores that I need to get done with the fact that I'm taking them outside really helps me to dedicate, or to stick to that, I should say, because I'm already going to be out there, and I'm like, well, I'm here anyways, and I can watch them from the garden because it's all in our backyard. So I might as well start working on this list little by little. So if it's something that maybe it's 15 minutes of decluttering, maybe you say, okay, I want my coffee in the morning, but I need to spend 15 minutes decluttering something before I can have that cup of coffee. And then you just kind of make it a little bit of a habit, and it helps you to really get that forward progress without feeling like it's so daunting and overwhelming when you're staring down a very large list of things. And maybe your struggle is the garden. Maybe you're thinking, I really feel like I've dropped the ball this year. Maybe you've had crops die. Maybe you planted stuff from seed and all of it died, and then you had nothing to transplant into your garden. Maybe you had these big plans, but you didn't follow through on them. You have bulbs and seeds that still need to be planted. The list can go on. And I just want to encourage you that if that is you, one, you're not alone, and two, it is okay. It's okay if you don't do it at all. It's okay if you don't do it perfectly. It's okay if you do it halfway. It's okay. Just do the best you can, and remember that it does not have to be all or nothing. And this is what I want to encourage you. Whatever the thing is that you're struggling with, feeling like you have dropped the ball on, feeling like you failed, whether it is gardening or not, decide of that area, decide what is the one task that is most important to you and focus on that. So let's say for this month, you're wanting to focus on gardening, and the most important thing to you is that you get green bean seeds planted. Then focus on that. And don't even worry about anything else on the list until you actually get that one thing done. And then after you have that one thing done, well, for one, celebrate. And then after that, reevaluate. Say, do I have time to do more? Do I have the capacity to do more? And if the answer is yes, then look at your list and say, what's the next most important thing to me? Maybe there are some dahlia bulbs that I really, really wanted to plant, and I need to get those planted. Maybe you say, no, actually, I feel like I don't have the capacity or the time. Then say, that's okay. This is good enough. I'm making progress, and I'm also really developing my skills by doing this one thing, and that is better than where you were before. And let that be enough. And that's what I want to encourage you, especially when it comes to the area of gardening. I want you to think of gardening as like your place of peace, as like kind of a place of rest. Now, it is physically hard, but I'm saying like this emotional rest. And if we are really just making it into a chore, into a must do, then I think it can take away so much of the joy from that. So we don't want it to be another chore. We want it to be a place where we can really become recharged and feel like we're having some downtime for ourselves. And that's what has been for me, and I really want it to be for you. So that's why I want to encourage you. Just set those realistic expectations for yourself. Don't expect too much, and give yourself that grace. So I hope this has been encouraging to you. If you had a similar struggle, whatever area it may be in, I would love to hear from you. So head over, you can either message me on Facebook or head over to our free Facebook community. You can find us at bit.ly/motherhoodcommunity. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and I will see you back next time.
Hey Mama, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If so, would you take 30 seconds to share this with a friend who is wanting to live more holistically without the overwhelm? Also, don't forget to head over to Apple Podcasts to leave me a review. It blesses and encourages me to know that this show is helping you. All right, friends, it's time for me to go work in the garden and make some homemade bone broth. I will see you back next week.